Good morning, friends. Welcome to the Edmonds Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Eric Kamenetsky, and I am filling in for our guest preacher, Joseph Bednarik, for this Fallback Sunday. Joseph will be preaching the sermon, but he's not feeling well, so we supported him in staying over on the other side of the Salish Sea. That being said, because he is not completely down for the count, he's going to try to join those of you who attend our online Zoom coffee hour after the service. So if you're torn between in-person coffee hour and online coffee hour, you could run home or open up your phone, or you go down to the Friar Place where Steve Ernst is going to be our analog in-person host down there. And I think we have a body limit of 7 or 9 or something down there. At any rate, if you want to see Joseph Bednarik live, he'll be available in the Zoom coffee hour. I am so excited to see you live this morning. Whether you are here in the sanctuary or attending online, your presence is an essential part of our celebration today. We gather as one congregation in Edmonds and online with curious minds, loving hearts, deep beliefs, and unique life experiences and stories. You are welcome here. If this is your first Sunday with us, we're guessing you want to know more about us, and we would love to know more about you and help you connect with the things you're looking for in a faith community. If that sounds good and you're here on site this morning, you can check out the welcome desk, which you walked right by as you came in this morning. Those folks would love to say hello to you. Or if you're watching us live online or even on a recording, you can go to our website at euuc.org and click on the tab that says I'm New. There's a drop-down menu to our visitor form. I think it's called What Are You Interested In? And if you're on Facebook this morning, there's probably a link to that underneath this post. However you get to the visitor form, if you fill it out, we'll send you more information about who we are and about who you can become if you choose to explore this amazing congregation. What happens after that is up to you. We invite, you choose. So in a moment, the service will begin, and immediately after this service, as I said, many of us who are online and who are already a part of this congregation will gather on Zoom for a virtual coffee hour featuring conversation and community. And if you're online and you can manage filling out that visitor form that I just mentioned, we'll send you a link so you can join that conversation next week after the service. If you're here this morning and you'd like to gather to socialize after the service, please feel free to go out into the narthex and grab a cup of whatever it is that you like to drink that we offer, and come back in here for coffee hour. We'll be glad to meet with you. Again, we invite, you choose, but please know that we would love to have you come to coffee hour today, come to coffee hour next week, come to service next Sunday. It is so good to have you here. We open with our land acknowledgement. Let us remember that our congregational home, this place from which I am preaching, is placed on the ancestral lands of the Snohomish people who have inhabited this region of the Salish Sea since time immemorial and who continue their livelihoods on these lands today. May we all live and learn humbly as allies to the Snohomish. Our opening words this morning are a single sentence from the Buddha. Wakefulness is the way to life. Wakefulness is the way to life. Each week we gather, we place a flame in the bowl of this chalice, by this committing and completing a sign and a signal of our Unitarian Universalist faith tradition. We light the chalice this morning with an insight from Henry David Thoreau. Let me light it first. Thoreau says, "It takes two to speak the truth. one to speak and another to hear. We are a singing congregation. The hymn we're going to sing this morning is number 131, Love Will Guide Us. Our pianist Nick Maxwell will play it through once, and then we will sing together. The words should appear on your screen. You are welcome to rise and sing or sit and sing. You can rise or sit and hum or be silent, whatever works best for you, but please join us in experiencing Love Will Guide Us. Each week that we gather, we say the words of our affirmation. We say them to ourselves and to each other. You are welcome to join us. You're welcome to speak them or hear them or think them or feel them, but please join us in the experience of the affirmation. We need each other. And so we come to this place to work and dance and laugh and cry and think. We call ourselves a religious community, not because this place is in itself holy ground, but because what we do here and say here, God, please join us in singing them on to their adventures. Go your way in peace. Nick, if you'll play it first. Go your way in peace, wander as you may. Blessed is the path you take, may love guide you on your way. Go your way in peace, wander as you may. Blessed is the path you take, may love guide you on. For a moment's peace, I invite you in to settle in wherever you are, in these chairs, at home, in your car, sitting, laying down, standing. If your feet reach the floor, please put them on the floor. If not, put them in a comfortable position. Loosen up your shoulders and your neck. Position your head in a comfortable place on your body. I invite you to soften your gaze or close your eyes and let the muscles of your jaws go slack. Breathe as you breathe, and we will enter into the quiet I will bring you out with the words, "May it be so." Please enter your time for quiet with these words. May solace come upon you, power rise within you, and peace settle on your heart. May it be so.
Good morning, everyone. It is a delight to be here with you on Fallback Sunday. I wish we could be together physically in Edmonds, but alas, I'm over on the other side of the Salish Sea. Just got back from a business trip, came in, had some symptoms that were suspicious. So to play it safe, we are going to record today's sermon, share it with you on the big screen. Also, I want to say I might have to take a break during my sermon here and take a sip of water occasionally. So we'll see how it goes. But anyway, let's begin with one of the most famous sentences from 20th century philosophy. The limits of my language mean the limits of my world. Now that's from Ludwig Wittgenstein's masterpiece, the Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus. It's a profound idea that suggests that the world is bounded by language, and not just any language, or any general world, but specific to my language and my world, which also implies your language and your world. Here's the quote again. The limits of my language mean the limits of my world. Now, if you take this quote at its word, if you want to expand your world, then expand your language, or more precisely, your languages. And languages abound. Nearly 7,000 languages have existed on planet Earth with distinct words and sounds and grammars. There's, of course, the language of your mother tongue, the language that you grew up within, that you think in, that you dream in. You may have a second or a third language, and you might experience their attendant grammars and thought structures. There's the languages of mathematics, of logic, symbols and codes, the languages of music and dance, poetry and painting, sculpture, song, the languages of tenderness, the language of touch, the languages of myth and story and religion, the languages of meditation and mysticism, which move beyond the bounds of language proper to experience viscerally and soulfully the universal, the one. It's an abundance of languages. And just for fun, let's share the first and the last sentences from Wittgenstein's Tractatus. The book begins with these 9 words. The world is all that is the case. That is a sentence that is hard to argue with. Now, the book literally ends with the word silence. What we cannot speak about, we must consign to silence. So later today, when you're chatting with your neighbor and they ask you what you talked about today at church, you can say, well, we talked about Wittgenstein's Tractatus. The world is all that is the case, et cetera, et cetera. And moving about a zillion kilometers from the Tractatus, I want to do a little show and tell this morning. I am going to show you my favorite cookie jar in the entire world. It is a clear glass cookie jar filled with Scrabble letters. There are hundreds and hundreds of Scrabble letters, and the occasional bananagram letter thrown in there as well. Now, when I show you the cookie jar, what is amazing about this cookie jar is that it contains all the letters of every English word that you have ever said or sung, thought or written or dreamed, could be spelled out with these letters. And in fact, that jar could radically shrink in size. Where is my, gotta find my little jarry jar. Here it is. Could radically shrink in size to this jar. This jar that contains 26 letters, these letters. Every thought that you have ever had in English could be represented by these letters. Every Audre Lorde poem and essay. I'm going to put this right up there. The entirety of the Bible, the Tractatus for that matter. The point here is that very small things, 6 vowels, 20 consonants, can become very large things. It is also the case that small changes can make big impacts on our conceptions of the world, such as a small sip of water can make a huge impact on how my throat is feeling right now. So these small changes can make a huge impact on how we frame the world and the kind of world that we can create with and for others. For example, word choices can have a profound impact on how we perceive a thing. One story I love, I got this from the book, The Last Lecture. It's a great book. Is when you ask a host at Disneyland what time the park closes, the response is, Disneyland is opened until 9 o'clock. And did you catch that? Did you catch the difference between when you close and how long you're opened? It's the exact same answer, framed either in being closed or in being opened. As Unitarian Universalists, I would like to believe that we, as a religious body, are called to keep the park opened and to frame the world in terms of opportunity and welcome, to inclusion, and perhaps most importantly, truth. To bring our fourth principle to mind and to our heart, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. The search for truth and for ways to speak and articulate that truth are keys to practicing this religion. And because we're linguistic creatures, everyone here in this room is a linguistic creature, that search necessarily involves words. And of course, we need to speak our truth. And in speaking our truth, we're called to use truthful words and to know the truth within the meanings of words. Now consider this. A few months ago, I heard this incredible segment on the radio. A woman was talking about plantations, those manicured southern plantations. And she said that traditionally the word evoked pleasant and positive associations and feelings. The word brought forth the image of well-kept mansions and manicured grounds. The common resonance around the word was one of prosperity, abundance, manners, order, gentility. And there I am driving along, nodding my head in silent agreement, and then she lowered the boom. And that's all a lie, she said. It's a myth. It's a figment. It's a hideous misrepresentation. A plantation, in reality, is a forced labor camp where human beings were compelled by threat of physical violence to work their lifetime for no wages, to work from dawn to dusk, year in, year out, on threat of being tortured or killed. My conception of the world turned on a dime. Of course, I thought, of course. The mansion and the grounds, the tradition and the gentility of the society, all built upon the intense long-term suffering of slave labor, or more accurately, the forced labor from enslaved people, fellow human beings enslaved to a lifetime of work, and in death, exhausted body buried in an unmarked grave. Now, with apologies to those here who may have hosted a family event or a company function on a plantation, after this Sunday, may you never think of a plantation without thinking forced labor camp. Now, there are hundreds and hundreds of instances such as this in the English language, words and phrases from the obvious to the subtle, where meanings can shift, where small and subtle shifts of our usage can have a profound impact. For example, hey guys, it's innocuous, right? Not so fast. Guys implies male. So strictly speaking, the phrase, hey guys, excludes approximately half the human population. Now, as discussed in an article entitled The Problem with Hey Guys that appeared in the Atlantic magazine, quote, there are, of course, plenty of people, including many women, who have no problem being addressed as guys, think the word has evolved to be entirely gender neutral, and don't see a reason to change our usage. But others aren't so sure. I think, and it's still the article from the Atlantic, quote, I think there's a really serious and welcome reconception of gender lines and relationships between sex and gender going on, says John McWhortle, who teaches linguistics at Columbia University. He says that something has crested in particular over about the last 10 years, something that has people examining their everyday communications. That's a key phrase, that. Something has crested in particular over the past 10 years. It's something that has people examining their everyday communications. Now, I believe that as Unitarian Universalists, we're religious people dedicated to making this world a more just and joyous place, that we are called to examine our everyday communications, to refine and sharpen the words that we use, to be conscious and intentional and continuously improving, so that we can create the kind of world that is as welcoming as possible to everyone. And to recall the first sentence of this morning's message, to expand the limits of our language, to be universal in our welcoming, to be radically expansive in our inclusion, means to be ever more inclusive in the use of our language. Now, this can be a daily religious and spiritual practice that raises our consciousness, that does real work in the world. It brings to the forefront of our awareness the inequities that exist in the world, and inspire us to be humble and aware. Now, the redefinition of plantation, it expanded my world. I saw the world differently after that radio program. I saw the world, frankly, more truthfully. And we shan't go much farther without recognizing that this kind of consciousness around the word usage, it drives some people around the bend. The practice dismissed and belittled as politically correct, or feverish concerns about the language police. There's annoyance that these precious liberal snowflakes are acting holier than thou and creating problems where none exist. Problems do exist, and changing word choices can help ameliorate those problematic situations. Now, I became more familiar with this a couple of months ago when, at my workplace, we invested a staff meeting discussing some online resources, 3 online resources about language and language usage. The 3 resources were, the first one was an article called, quote, "Use these culturally offensive phrases, questions, at your own risk." And this was from an organization called Indigenous Corporate Training. Now, this article dealt specifically with Indigenous issues around language and pointed out that phrases like "low man on the totem pole," "hold down the fort," and "off the reservation" could be deeply, deeply problematic to Native peoples. And I stand before you, guilty as charged. I have used all those phrases for years and thought nothing about it. Now, going forward, while I will likely use those phrases unconsciously in the next week or month or year, I hope to become ever more conscious of my choices to do otherwise. In fact, a friend just the other day said, "Hey, let's get up and let's have a powwow about that." I'm like, you know what? Probably not the best use of words. He's like, "What? What's wrong with a powwow?" So we have these choices to do otherwise, and my religious call is to do otherwise. As Reverend Eric told me earlier this year, he gave me this great sentence. He said, "The English language is big and it is beautiful. You can find a way to say anything." So thank you, Eric, for that wise reminder. The second resource that we talked about was a short article from Business Insider entitled, quote, "12 racist and offensive phrases that people still use all the time." Now, here are 3 words and phrases highlighted in that article. Uppity, sold down river, and this one I simply couldn't believe. Hip hip hooray. Now, as explained, quote, "though steeped in controversy, some think the first part of this phrase relates to anti-Semitic demonstrations that started in Germany in the 19th century. The anti-Semites cheered hep hep as a German herding, which is a German herding call, as they forced Jews from their homes across Europe. Now, your call on that one. And third, the richest and most compelling resource was the, quote, "suggested language list" developed by students involved in the Prevention, Advocacy, and Resource Center at Brandeis University. When this resource first appeared last year, it was called the Oppressive Language List. And let me tell you, it was thoroughly maligned in conservative media. And even the beloved humorist David Sedaris belittled the list in an interview in the New York Times Magazine. Now, Brandeis University proper took swift action, made it perfectly clear to everyone that this project was run independently by students, that the university, since its founding, was grounded in robust principles of free speech, free expression, and academic freedom, emphasis obviously on the word free, which echoes the aforementioned 4th principle of Unitarian Universalism, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And I think perhaps we should ask the powers that be to italicize the word responsible in that principle. Now, remaining true to the theme of this sermon, the students decided to change the word oppressive to suggested, to create the suggested language list. Now, this intentional word choice is in the same lineage as the park is opened until 9. Now, I would highly recommend that everyone here this morning invest some quality time with these resources. As Unitarian Universalists, we should seek to continuously raise our awareness about the histories of words and phrases. And as part of our spiritual practice, we can make simple and conscious changes to make the world a much more just and joyful place for as many of our fellow human beings as possible. And remember to not be so self-righteous in doing so. Now, also, I think that it would be amazing if EUUC's board of directors and or the Social Justice Committee would host a study session focused on these resources and consider where language might be improved and refined within the organization. For example, after the birth of my daughters, I made a conscious choice to play the De-Gender It game, game of my own invention, where words like fireman and congressman became firefighter and congressional rep. Another example is a friend who was going to seminary once told me that the students were assigned to read through the entirety of the UU hymnal and highlight all the gendered and ableist language. It was odd to consider that we joyfully sing the issue, this very issue that we're talking about during worship. And I know of numerous atheists in UU congregations who refuse to sing any and all God references in songs and hymns. So, dear editing while singing atheists, you are modeling some of the very practices that we're calling for this morning. So, well done. In my workplace, I certainly found the exercise incredibly useful and incredibly enlightening. And truth be told, it was humbling to realize that I have used casually and thoughtlessly in my speech and written communications these terms that were coming up over and over again. And I've used them even in sermons I've delivered in rooms called sanctuary. Now that irony is not lost on me. And to close here this morning, I want to provide 2 specific examples from the suggested language list. First, I'm going to introduce it with a portion of their introduction from the website's landing page. Quote, "The suggested language list does not attempt to include every possible bad word, but rather highlight words and phrases we might not realize that have violent histories or usages can cause harm. We do not censor each other, nor do we pass judgment on anyone who chooses to use these words or phrases on the list. In our work, we try to be as intentional as possible. I think that's key, intentional as possible with our language, recognizing that we want to do our best to not perpetrate or further perpetrate violence against anyone in any way. We recognize that language is a powerful tool and that it can be used to perpetrate and to perpetuate violence and oppression. As a community and as individuals, we can strive to remove language that may hurt those who have experienced violence from our everyday use. Now, the list is not exhaustive. In an attempt to organize it, currently we have entries sorted into 4 categories, and those categories are identity-based, violent language, language that doesn't say what we mean, and culturally appropriative language. Now, in the violent language section, I discovered a phrase that I use all the time: whipped into shape. Just like hearing the truthful meaning of plantation, the resource pointed out that the phrase whipped into shape evokes imagery of enslavement and torture. Now, I don't know why, but I had never seen that before. I'd never thought about that before, but now I cannot help but see it. And in the language that doesn't say what we mean section, hold on to your hats, master bedroom. Now think about that. I know that I never did. As the list says, the term master carries strong connections to America's slavery and is inherently gendered male or masculine. As an exercise, I got out my Oxford English Dictionary and my magnifying glass and confirmed that the primary definition of master is a man having control or authority. Now, I have for decades labeled documents master budget, master plan, master this, master that. I own several master locks. As a former job, I carried a master key. The limits of my language mean the limits of my world. Which brings us to a closing thought. After that staff meeting I mentioned earlier, where we were discussing these resources, about a week later, someone in my department brought to my attention that the word deadline, which is used with incredible frequency in a time-sensitive business like publishing, well, that word has violent undertones. According to sources, I was told, had a line around it, and if a person crossed over that line, they would be shot dead. Dead line. I get it. I found the factoid interesting, though not compelling enough to catalyze a change. In my opinion, nobody on God's green earth was being harmed by using the word deadline. And there I was, bumping up against my own patience with this refining our word choices project. Let's start using due date instead, this young staff person offered enthusiastically. Now, I refrained from rolling my eyes, which of course is a form of aggressive communication. Took a deep breath. Is there a deadline as to when we should start? I replied, skeptical, though willing to stay open. Amen. Well, we made it through. Thank you very much for your patience while I sipped this precious, precious liquid. And now I would like to pass it back to the service at hand. Thanks. I'll see you at coffee hour.
He's pretty amazing. Now let me ask you a question. This plan came together yesterday. This was not the way it was supposed to be. I was not supposed to be in this pulpit, and he was not supposed to be on that screen. Did it work well enough? If it worked well enough for you, please raise your hand. I'm looking at you back home. I can see you through this screen. It's like the magic mirror in Romper Room. Thank you. There are brilliant people in the world that can bring messages to us who cannot be here in person. They live far away. They could be with us in this format. Are you open to having this format now? If you are open to having this format now and again, would you please raise your hands? And I mean you too at home. Thank you all. I love this guy. Our special music, our hymn, is number 1002, Comfort Me. Again, Nick will play it through. Please rise as you are moved to rise, in body, in spirit, however you rise, and join us in the way that works best for you to sing Comfort Me. First, we will introduce. A kind word or a thoughtful act, like a pebble dropped in water, sends ripples out into the world. Should you wish to make a promise or let go of one, remember someone, release a bit of pain, forgive yourself or someone else, or otherwise mark some important event or occasion, please step forward and quietly send your thoughts outward as you drop a pebble in the water, mingling the ripples of your intentions with the ripples of other people in our community. During this quiet time and as the beautiful music plays, please feel free to come forward. Please maintain a social distance from the person in front of you. Come forth and drop a pebble in the water. Please approach by the outer aisles and return by the center. I will drop one pebble for all those whom we wish were here with us today, and another for all those who wish they were here. May it be so. It comes time to take our weekly offering. And if you are new to our gathering, it's important for you to know that our weekly offering does not support the ongoing operations of this community. We support this congregation by making generous pledges of financial support that we pay month by month, year by year. If you'd like to make a contribution to the operations, you're welcome to. But our Sunday morning offering, the monies that we collect on Sundays, goes right out into the world to support the organizations that do good works, that align with and extend the mission of this congregation. Say it with me if you know it. Gathering together, nurturing the Spirit, living our vision of a just and sustainable world. We have a video from the Worthy Now ministry. It's the cause of the month for November. The Worthy Now Prison Ministry is a special program of the Church of the Larger Fellowship. The Church of the Larger Fellowship is the largest Unitarian Universalist congregation in existence. It is a virtual congregation that has instances of people meeting in analog places, but mostly it's church by mail, church by email, church by screen. The Church of the Larger Fellowship now serves 1,500 of its 4,000 members who are in prison, and that number is rapidly expanding. The Worthy Now Network's goals are to connect, deepen, and act on our Unitarian Universalist values. The programs and the offerings include prison ministry partnerships, a program for congregations interested in direct service for people who are incarcerated, circles of support, communities of people dedicated to working within the justice system, going deeper in understanding mass incarceration and the prison industry, building relationships with others involved in prison ministry, contributing to and providing administrative support for the Worthy Now Network. They have a letter writing ministry, a one-on-one letter writing connection with a UU living in prison whose pen pal may be their only contact with the outside world. And they offer classes, online educational offerings covering such topics as the prison industrial complex, anti-racism, anti-oppression, compassionate communication, etc. Here is a brief video from the director of the Worthy Now Ministry describing that program.
Hello, and thanks for your interest in our Faith Fight campaign. My name is Sir LeBert Jr., and I'm the Prison Ministry Manager at the Church of the Larger Fellowship. CLF exists to offer connection to UUs no matter where they are. About half of our over 3,000 members are incarcerated. Worthy Now exists to bring the truth of Unitarian Universalism to those most isolated UUs. We lift up that all of us, even those currently incarcerated, are worthy now of love, honor, and connection. We offer a pen pal matching service between incarcerated UUs and those in the free world, a range of classes and reading packets, our monthly issue of Quest, as well as a quarterly newsletter just for our incarcerated members. This ministry is even more important now as the prison industrial complex seeks to further dehumanize the incarcerated through the use of scanning services such as text behind, which convert all physical mail, such as family photos, letters, and magazines, into digital copies controlled by the prison. The points of connection between our pastoral learning fellows, our lead ministers, and our staff and pen pals are powerful examples of our UU principles in action. For example, in the month of August alone, we sent out 2,612 letters from pen pals, 1,002 individual letters from staff, and 946 introductory packets were sent to incarcerated folks seeking to learn more about our program. As you can tell, we are growing, and we need your help. Your contribution will help us sustain our life-giving ministries and expand as we refresh our classes to better reflect the direction of Unitarian Universalism, create workshops to educate UUs about the need for abolition, and continue our service to the most isolated UUs in our faith. So we are asking for your help in our Faith Fight campaign, and we'll be glad you did. Thank you.
If you are online or if you're on site and you have your phone handy, you can go to the Giving tab on our website, euc.org, and look for the offering cause of the month to make a donation. Or if you're on site and you have cash or a check with you, there are baskets out in the narthex. Just outside these doors, if you pull a U-turn, you'll see a TV screen, and underneath that, there are 2 wicker baskets. You can put your cash or checks in there. Please be generous within the limits of your budget. And if you have a moment, take a look at the Church of the Larger Fellowship. I'm a member. You could be too. We have a number of announcements this morning. This Friday, we will have another in our series of Vespers services. I will be joined by Melanie DeMoore on Friday at 7 p.m. and look forward to seeing you right here. Then, regarding our religious exploration classes, all religious exploration classes are going to continue until about 11:15 on Sunday mornings, so parents have a chance to get a cup of coffee and a bit of conversation before having to pick their children up. In fall of this year, which we're in, we will have monthly all-ages services, 1 per month, where children are invited to attend the entire service, and that's next Sunday. Melanie DeMoore will be with me. Melanie DeMoore is a singer, a composer, a talented choir director for people of all ages, and Melanie will be leading our services on November 13th and December 11th with me. They will be interactive and fun experiences for everyone. We will continue to offer childcare for toddlers in the nursery room, which is down that way on these days, but others are encouraged to stay with their families to enjoy the singing. Our regular religious education classes will not be held on those days. So next Friday is Vespers. Next Saturday, people who want to sing with Melanie DeMoore can come in the morning. And then on Sunday, y'all come with your littles, and we'll have an all-ages service with me and Melanie DeMoore. Next, from our community engagement team and Pam Iverson, if you haven't yet been able to bring your winter clothes to donate to our clothing drive, you can contact Pam or the Community Engagement Committee. We will be delivering those clothes to neighbors in need later this month. And they've been collecting a fair bit, but the need is enormous. So if you're thinking you might want to do that, please get it done. Then, from Grant Glado, a member of our COVID advisory team, winter holidays are coming. Time to level up your immunity and the protection of the community. To be up to date for COVID vaccines, we ask that all medically eligible people over age 5, let me try that again. All medically eligible people over age 5 receive the bivalent booster by November 15th. For those age 5 and younger, the bivalent booster should be received by January 15th. I got mine, I got my flu shot, I got my diphtheria, pertussis, and whatever the other one is. It's all good. Those are our announcements for today. Thank you for attending. It's time for us to carry this flame, carry the light and the love and the warmth that it represents out with us in the world with these words. We release this flame, but not the light of truth. We release this flame, but not the warmth of this community. We release this flame, but not the fire of our commitment. These we will carry in our hearts until we meet again. And now, our pianist, Nick Maxwell, is going to play walking out music. If you're new here, walking out music is for walking out. You could sit here and listen, but this is not a silent time. This is Nick making music, her phone going off, and y'all walking out to grab something to drink, either running to go get on Zoom coffee hour so you can see Joseph Bednarik, or grabbing your cup of coffee or tea and come back in here to socialize. Thank you for being with us this week. We'll see you next Sunday and next Friday.